Welcome back to Myths Unraveled. Like and subscribe if you enjoy this video. Agares, as a duke ruling the eastern zone of hell, stands among the most disciplined and commanding figures within the infernal hierarchy. Unlike the wild chaos, often associated with demonic forces, Agares operates within a structured and precise domain, wielding his authority with the cold efficiency of a noble strategist. His dominion over the East is not marked by reckless destruction, but by order twisted into malevolence, by the imposition of control that serves not liberation but subjugation. The eastern zone of hell, under his rule, is a realm of obedience enforced through fear, of movement bound by unseen chains, and of speech corrupted at its core. As a duke, Agares holds power second only to the princes and kings of hell, commanding legions of spirits who act according to his will. These legions are not mindless beasts, but disciplined agents of his purpose, trained to carry out his decrees with precision. His command over them reflects his own nature, deliberate, methodical, and relentless. He is a master of pursuit, of reclaiming what seeks to escape, of bringing back what dares to flee from hell's grasp. His soldiers mirror this aspect, hunting down souls and beings that defy the infernal order, ensuring that no act of rebellion or abandonment goes unpunished. The eastern zone of hell is a reflection of Agares himself, bleak, structured, and suffocating in its sense of inescapable authority. It is a place where every movement is watched, every thought weighed, and every word has consequences. Unlike the chaotic torment of other regions, Agares' domain is one of calculated punishment, where the suffering is measured and precise, designed to break the will without breaking the body. Here, torment comes not from wild violence, but from the slow erosion of hope, from the knowledge that freedom is not just denied, but rendered impossible by a system that knows every weakness and exploits every flaw. Agares' title as a duke signifies his noble bearing, his adherence to a code of conduct that, though twisted, is unyielding. He sees himself not as a mere demon, but as a ruler, a guardian of the laws that bind hell together. His rule is not arbitrary. It is rooted in a deep understanding of order, of hierarchy, of the need for control. He despises chaos, viewing it as weakness, and seeks to impose his will upon all who enter his realm. Those who find themselves in the eastern zone of hell are not torn apart by frenzied beasts, but worn down by the relentless enforcement of rules, by the weight of judgment that never sleeps. His authority extends beyond his own legions to influence the broader structure of hell. Other demons, though rivals in ambition, recognize his command in the east, for his power is undeniable, and his reach long. He is often called upon to mediate disputes, to enforce pacts, to retrieve those who have escaped their bonds. His role as a stabilizer in hell's ever-shifting power struggles makes him both feared and respected. He is not loved. Love has no place in his realm, but his position is secure, for he serves a function that hell cannot do without, the preservation of order in a world built on disorder. Agares is also a master of boundaries. The East, in many traditions, is a place of beginnings, of dawn, of the first light. Under Agares, this symbolism is corrupted. In his realm, the East is not a place of hope, but of entrapment. It is where souls who believed they had escaped are brought back, where the light reveals not freedom, but the chains that bind them. He controls the gates through which runaways might flee, and ensures that none pass without his notice. His knowledge of paths, of roads, of the ways souls move through realms, is unparalleled. No matter how far one runs, Agares can find them, and he will. This dominion over boundaries also gives Agares a unique role in the balance between the mortal and infernal worlds. He watches the thresholds, the liminal spaces where the two meet, and asserts his influence in subtle, pervasive ways. Those who stand at the edge of decisions, who teeter on the brink of surrender or defiance, often feel his pull. He does not push, but waits, knowing that most will falter, that most will return to the familiar, to the chains they know. When they do, he is there, not to welcome, but to reclaim, to remind them that escape is an illusion, that the East is not a place of rising but of return. Agares' power is not only external, but internal. He understands the mind, the doubts that lead to flight, the fears that drive one to run. He uses this understanding to manipulate, to break resistance from within. His realm is filled with echoes of regret, with the voices of those who fled and failed, who now serve as warnings to others. He cultivates despair with care, knowing that a soul convinced of its futility is a soul that will never resist again. His rule is psychological as much as it is physical, a domination of thought as much as body. The eastern zone of hell under Agares is also a place of punishment through repetition. Runaways are not just brought back, they are made to relive their failure, to walk the same path again and again, each time hoping for a different outcome, each time ending at the same point of capture. This cycle is his greatest weapon, for it crushes hope completely, leaving only submission. The soul becomes a prisoner not only in space but in time, bound to a fate that offers no escape, no change, only the endless return. Agares himself is a figure of contradiction. He appears as an old man, wise and venerable, yet rides a crocodile, a beast of primal force. This image reflects his dual nature, the mind of a strategist, the heart of a predator. He is patience and violence, waiting and striking. His age suggests knowledge, experience, a long reign built on understanding the nature of power. The crocodile, ancient and relentless, signifies his readiness to act when the time is right, to snap shut the jaws of his domain on those who dare defy him. Despite his rigid control, Agares is not without ambition. His rule in the east is stable, but he eyes the other zones of hell, the domains where chaos rules, and sees opportunities for expansion. He believes in order, in the supremacy of control, and he seeks to bring the rest of hell under this vision. His methods are slow, but effective. Alliances formed, debts called in, enemies undermined. He moves not with haste, but with certainty, knowing that time is his ally, that all things decay, and that in decay, structure can be imposed. Agares' story is one of dominion, of the relentless imposition of will over chaos, of the triumph of order, no matter how dark. His rule is a testament to the power of structure, of discipline, of control, twisted to serve the ends of hell. He is not the loudest demon, nor the most flamboyant, but he is among the most dangerous, for his power is enduring, his reach extensive, and his understanding of weakness profound. In the eastern zone of hell, under his watchful eye, nothing is forgotten, nothing is forgiven, and nothing escapes. Agares is known not just for his authority within the eastern zone of hell, but for his unique and terrifying power, the ability to compel runaways to return. This power is not limited to the physical act of bringing back those who flee. It is a deeper, more psychological and spiritual force, one that strikes at the heart of freedom, autonomy, and the desperate urge to escape. Whether they are souls attempting to flee the clutches of hell, mortals who run from their duties, or even spirits who rebel against infernal law, none can truly escape Agares. His dominion is over the impulse to flee, and the inevitability of being found, captured, and dragged back to face what one thought was left behind. To understand Agares' role as the enforcer of return, one must first understand the nature of flight. Fleeing is an act of defiance, an assertion of will against an oppressor, a situation, or even against one's own failures. It is born from fear, but also from hope, the belief that somewhere else, beyond the current suffering, lies freedom. In hell, the concept of flight is an affront to the established order, to the idea that punishment is eternal, binding, and inescapable. Agares is the answer to this defiance. He exists to prove that escape is an illusion, that all paths lead back to the chains one seeks to break, and that the past, no matter how deeply buried, will always return. Agares does not pursue his prey with fury or chaos. He does so with precision, with inevitability. His methods are varied, suited to the soul or being he seeks to reclaim. Some are drawn back through fear, others through manipulation, and some through the sheer weight of their own guilt. He knows that the desire to run often leaves a trail, not just in the world, but in the heart. Regret, doubt, and longing are weaknesses he exploits with a master's touch. He does not need to chase when he can lead the runaway to circle back on their own, lost in a maze of their own making, until he stands before them once more. There is a cruelty in the way Agares brings runaways back, a cruelty that lies in his deep understanding of his victims. He knows their hopes, their fears, the lies they tell themselves to justify their flight. He dismantles these, piece by piece, until there is nothing left but the raw truth of their failure. To be caught by Agares is not merely to be returned, but to be unmasked, to have the very reasons for fleeing turned against you. He forces his captives to confront the futility of their rebellion, to see that every step away from hell only brings them closer to it. Agares' power is particularly potent against those who flee from oaths, from responsibilities they have forsaken. In the mortal world, this manifests as a haunting presence, a series of misfortunes, dreams or signs that draw the runaway back to the place or duty they abandoned, contracts broken, promises unkept. These are invitations to Agares, who delights in the restoration of order through compulsion. His influence ensures that debts are paid, that duties shirked are faced, and that no betrayal goes unpunished. The runaway may find themselves inexplicably drawn back, circumstances aligning against their will, until they stand once more before what they sought to escape. For those who have made pacts with infernal powers, and then attempt to break them, Agares is a relentless enforcer. He is the hand that reaches out when the debtor believes they have hidden, the shadow that falls over new beginnings, reminding them that their past is never truly gone. He does not always act immediately. Sometimes he waits, allowing the runaway to believe they have succeeded, to build a new life, to feel safe. And then he comes, not just to reclaim, but to shatter the illusion, to show that freedom was never theirs to claim. This slow, deliberate return is more than punishment. It is a lesson, a demonstration of the futility of defiance. Agares also deals with the spiritual runaways, those who turn from their faith, their convictions, their inner truths. He is a force that drags them back to their crises, to the questions they thought silenced, to the parts of themselves they tried to abandon. His compulsion is not just external but internal, a voice that echoes in the mind, a weight that grows heavier with each attempt to ignore it. He forces confrontation, demanding that the runaway face the very thing they fear most, whether it is guilt, shame, or the consequences of past actions. Agares ensures that it cannot be outrun. The process of return is not uniform. It is tailored. Some are broken quickly, their will no match for the inevitability of his reach. Others resist, fight, claw for every inch of distance, only to find themselves back where they started, more weary, more lost. Agares takes a particular pleasure in these long chases, for they allow him to demonstrate the futility of resistance in its fullest form. Every escape attempt is a thread he pulls, unraveling hope until all that remains is surrender. He does not seek to destroy his victims physically. He seeks to hollow them out, to leave them shells of their former selves, knowing that no matter where they go, he will always find them. His domain, the eastern zone of hell, is filled with the echoes of these returns. Souls who once dared to flee now serve as warnings, their stories told in whispers, their fates a testament to his power. They walk the halls not as rebels, but as broken beings, their defiance turned to despair. They are made examples, not through torment, but through their existence, a reminder that no one escapes Agares, that every runaway will find their way back, whether by force, by fate, or by the failure of their own will. In the mortal world, Agares' influence can be felt in the patterns of life that seem to pull people back to the very places they tried to leave. A man who flees his past finds it waiting for him in a new city. A woman who abandons her family is drawn back by circumstances she cannot control. A soldier who deserts the field finds himself compelled to return, haunted by visions, by dreams, by an unshakable sense that his fate is not yet fulfilled. These are not coincidences, but the hand of Agares, ensuring that all who run face the consequences of their flight. There is a perverse sense of justice in Agares' actions. He does not punish without cause. He enforces balance, the fulfillment of oaths, the facing of debts, but his justice is twisted, lacking mercy, devoid of understanding. He does not care for the reasons behind the flight, only that it occurred. He sees not the desperation, the pain, the fear that drove the runaway, but the breach, the disorder, the defiance. His goal is not to heal, but to restore order, to impose control, to ensure that no one believes they can escape the structure he upholds. Yet in his relentless pursuit, there is also a mirror held up to human nature. Agares reveals the part of us that knows some things cannot be left behind, that running does not erase, but delays. He embodies the truth that some responsibilities must be faced, that some mistakes must be confronted. His presence challenges the idea of freedom without consequence, of action without repercussion. Through him, stories explore the tension between the desire to flee and the need to return, between rebellion and accountability. Those who resist Agares must find strength not in avoidance, but in confrontation. To truly escape him, one must face what was fled from, must resolve what was left undone. Only through the courage to stand before the past, to accept the weight of choices made, can his grip be broken. It is not in running, but in reckoning, that freedom is found. For Agares cannot hold what has willingly returned, what has faced the truth without fear. His power ends where acceptance begins, where the runaway becomes no longer a fugitive, but a seeker of resolution. In the end, Agares is not just a hunter of runaways. He is a force that demands closure, that insists on the cycle being complete. His realm is one where stories cannot be left unfinished, where every thread must be tied, even if by force. He is the embodiment of the past that refuses to be forgotten, of the bonds that cannot be broken by flight alone. His power is terrifying, yet it serves as a dark reminder that in the end, what we run from may be the very thing we must return to in order to be free. Agares wields a peculiar and insidious power that sets him apart from many of his infernal peers, the ability to teach immoral expressions and corrupt the very nature of communication. His dominion over language, particularly its debasement, serves as a potent tool of destruction not through brute force, but through the subtle degradation of meaning, the perversion of truth, and the fostering of chaos in the bonds that tie people together. Language is one of the most vital forces in both mortal and divine realms. It is through words that ideas are shaped, commands given, covenants made, and societies bound. Agares understands this deeply, and thus he attacks language itself, turning it from a bridge into a weapon, from a tool of unity into an instrument of division and decay. To comprehend the depth of Agares' influence, one must consider the sacredness of language. Words are more than mere sounds. They are vessels for thought, emotion, intent. In many traditions, creation itself began with a word, with the act of naming, of calling into existence through speech. Language is the medium through which understanding is formed, through which trust is built, through which the unseen is made known. Agares, in his role as corrupter of expression, seeks to unravel this sacred fabric, to sow discord where there was clarity, to breed misunderstanding where there was harmony. The teaching of immoral expressions by Agares is not limited to vulgarity or blasphemy, though these are among his tools. It extends to the deliberate twisting of meaning, to the encouragement of speech that wounds, that manipulates, that deceives. He inspires slander, lies, and the artful use of half-truths, making language a means not of enlightenment, but of control and corruption. Under his influence, eloquence becomes a snare, rhetoric, a mask for malevolence. Those who learn from him speak with silver tongues but blackened hearts, their words designed to entice, to ensnare, to dominate. Agares' corruption of language is both individual and societal. On a personal level, he teaches his followers to wield words like blades, cutting down rivals, seducing the innocent, distorting reality to suit their desires. He delights in the destruction that a well-placed lie can bring, in the relationships ruined by gossip, in the reputations shattered by insinuation. His students are masters of argument, but their arguments serve not truth, but self-interest. They revel in their ability to bend perception, to shape belief, to make others doubt even what they know to be true. This power is addictive. and those who embrace it soon find that they can no longer speak without deceit, that their own words have become prisons from which they cannot escape. On a broader scale, Agares influences entire cultures, turning public discourse into a battlefield of mistrust and manipulation. Under his sway, language becomes polarized, weaponized, stripped of its capacity for connection. Words that once united now divide. Terms that once held clear meaning become ambiguous, contested, hollow. The public sphere becomes a cacophony of voices shouting past one another, each convinced of their own righteousness, each deaf to the possibility of understanding. Truth becomes relative, shaped by power rather than reality, and the very idea of objective meaning is lost. In such an environment, dialogue is impossible, and with it, the possibility of peace or progress. Agares' influence can also be seen in the corruption of sacred texts and teachings. He inspires false prophets, those who twist holy words to serve their own ends, who preach doctrines of hate under the guise of faith. He encourages the reinterpretation of wisdom into dogma, of guidance into commandment, of inspiration into oppression. His goal is not merely to obscure truth, but to replace it, to make the lie seem more appealing, more reasonable, more profitable than the truth ever was. He turns the words of gods into tools of demons, and in doing so, he shakes the very foundations of belief. The immorality of Agares' expressions lies not only in their content, but in their intent. It is the intent to harm, to control, to deceive that marks his teachings. He does not merely encourage vulgarity for its own sake, but for the erosion of dignity, the breakdown of respect. He teaches that words have no intrinsic value, no moral weight, only utility. To him, language is a means to an end, and that end is always power. By stripping words of their sacredness, he strips people of their connection to one another, isolating them in their mistrust, their cynicism, their fear. The effects of Agares' teachings are profound. Societies under his influence become fragmented, each group speaking its own language, unable or unwilling to understand the other. Dialogue gives way to diatribe, debate to denunciation. In such a world, the possibility of common ground vanishes, and conflict becomes inevitable. Agares thrives in this environment, feeding on the discord he has sown, watching as communities tear themselves apart, not with weapons, but with words. Yet his corruption is not absolute. The very nature of language as a shared living thing means that it can be reclaimed, that meaning can be restored. Those who resist Agares' influence do so by speaking truth, by refusing to manipulate, by using language to build rather than destroy. They understand the power of words not just to wound, but to heal, to bridge the divides that Agares seeks to widen. In their honesty, in their integrity, they counter his lies, they undo his snares. The struggle against Agares is a struggle for the soul of language itself. It is a battle fought not with swords, but with speech, with the courage to speak plainly, to listen deeply, to honor the sacredness of communication. It requires vigilance, for his influence is subtle, pervasive, and often disguised as reason, as wit, as charm. But those who recognize the signs, who see the harm done by careless words, who feel the sting of truth twisted into falsehood, can stand against him, can reclaim their voices from his grasp. In stories, Agares' role as a corrupter of language serves as a powerful metaphor for the dangers of manipulation, for the ease with which truth can be obscured, for the responsibility that comes with speech. Characters who fall under his sway often begin with good intentions, using their words to protect, to persuade, to achieve what they believe is right. But as they embrace his teachings, they find themselves lost, unable to distinguish their lies from reality, their desires from truth. Their redemption, if it comes, lies in silence, in the choice to stop speaking falsehood, to listen, to relearn the value of honest expression. Agares' realm is filled with echoes, words spoken in anger, in lust, in deceit, all reverberating through the halls of his dominion. His court is one of noise, of arguments that go nowhere, of speeches that inspire hatred, of prayers twisted into curses. Yet, in the midst of this, there is a stillness that defies him, a quiet truth that words, though corrupted, can be cleansed, that meaning, though lost, can be found. It is in this stillness that resistance is born, that the power of language to create, to unite, to reveal, reasserts itself. Ultimately, Agares' power over immoral expression is a reminder of the weight that words carry, of the care they demand, of the impact they have on the world and on the soul. He is a figure of warning, of the dangers that lie in taking language lightly, in using it as a weapon rather than a gift. His defeat lies not in silence, but in the choice to speak rightly, to honor the truth, to use the power of words to uplift rather than to destroy. Through this, his influence can be undone, and the sacredness of language restored. Agares holds dominion not only over the minds and expressions of the wayward, but also commands the raw, disruptive force of the earth itself. His power to cause earthquakes and instability extends beyond the physical trembling of the ground, reaching into the foundations of societies, emotions, and moral certainty. As a Duke of Hell, he wields this element not as an untamed beast, but as a precise instrument, using instability to unmake what others have built, to shatter illusions of permanence, and to shake the very core of a soul's belief in order. Earthquakes, in their violent brevity, symbolize the sudden collapse of security, the terrifying reminder that all things thought solid can crumble in an instant. Agares revels in this revelation, for his essence is disruption, and through such trembling, he exerts control over both the outer and inner worlds. The power to cause earthquakes is a gift of dominion over the earth, over the bedrock upon which civilizations rest. While other demons might manipulate fire or air, forces that are visible and ever-changing, Agares chooses the earth, seemingly immutable, yet capable of unleashing destruction when least expected. His influence is that of the hidden fault, the pressure that builds over time, unseen but ever-growing, until the moment when it can no longer be contained. When he causes the ground to quake, it is not merely an act of chaos, but a calculated strike against the illusion of stability. Cities fall, mountains shift, temples collapse, not because he desires ruin for its own sake, but because he desires the fear and submission that come when mortals realize how powerless they are before the forces beneath their feet. Yet the earthquakes Agares causes are more than physical. He is a master of metaphorical quakes, those moments when lives are upended, when carefully laid plans are undone, when truths long believed are revealed to be lies. He knows that to destabilize a person, it is not always necessary to strike their body, sometimes it is enough to strike their certainty. A well-timed revelation, a betrayal, a sudden loss, these are tremors of the soul, and Agares is their architect. He shifts the ground of belief, causing doubts to swell, causing fears to erupt, until what was once firm becomes treacherous and uncertain. His victims find themselves standing on crumbling ground, unsure of what to trust, unsure of where to step, gripped by the terror that nothing can be relied upon. This power over instability makes Agares a formidable enemy of order, not in the sense of open rebellion, but in the sense of erosion. He does not shout his defiance, he whispers it through the cracks that form in the foundations of trust, in the fractures that appear in the unity of communities. His influence can be felt in governments that falter under corruption, in families torn apart by secrets, in institutions that collapse under the weight of their own hypocrisy. He sows the seeds of instability and watches them grow, nurtured by fear, by doubt, by the slow realization that what was thought to be unshakable is in fact fragile and fleeting. In personal relationships, Agares' control over instability manifests in the constant shifting of emotions, in the inability to find peace or constancy. He stirs conflicts, resurrects old wounds, ensures that reconciliation is just out of reach. Those under his influence find themselves in a state of perpetual unrest, never sure of where they stand with others, never certain of their own feelings. Love becomes fraught with suspicion, friendship with rivalry, loyalty with resentment. The ground beneath their emotional lives quakes, and they struggle to maintain balance, to find footing in a world that refuses to hold still. On a societal level, Agares earthquakes can be seen in moments of upheaval, revolutions, collapses, the sudden unraveling of the social fabric. He does not cause these alone, but he is present in the pressures that build, in the fractures that spread unnoticed until it is too late. He encourages complacency in the face of growing tension, ensures that warning signs are ignored, that dissent is silenced until the explosion is inevitable. When the quake comes, he is there, not at the forefront, but in the aftermath, in the rubble, feeding on the despair of those who believed the world would not change so violently. His control over such forces is not wild but strategic. Agares knows when to strike, when to let instability simmer, when to release it in a surge that cannot be withstood. He is patient, willing to wait as the pressure builds, as the cracks widen. His goal is not simply to destroy, but to dominate, to bring others under his rule by showing them the futility of resistance, the inevitability of collapse. He teaches that nothing lasts, that all things fall, and that the only safety lies in surrender to him, to his will, to the acceptance of instability as the true nature of existence. In the realm of hell, Agares' power over earthquakes also symbolizes his role as a keeper of boundaries, of transitions between states of being. Earthquakes open chasms, bring forth what lies beneath, reveal the depths hidden under the surface. In this, Agares acts as a revealer of truths too long buried, of realities that others wish to forget. He forces confrontation with the underworld, with the suppressed, with the primal forces that civilization seeks to tame. His quakes are not just acts of destruction, but of revelation, tearing away the surface to expose what lies beneath. The spiritual dimension of Agares' power is equally profound. He causes the ground of faith to tremble, shaking the certainties of belief, of dogma, of moral conviction. He challenges the righteous, not with arguments, but with experience, with the kind of suffering and doubt that makes old answers seem hollow. Those who face his earthquakes must grapple with the collapse of their spiritual foundations, must find new ground on which to stand or be swallowed by the abyss. In this way, Agares becomes a test, a force that either destroys faith or refines it, either crushes the soul or drives it to greater strength. Resistance to Agares comes not from denial of instability, but from its acceptance and transcendence. Those who survive his quakes are those who learn to adapt, who find stability not in the world but in themselves, who recognize that while the ground may shake, their will need not falter. They rebuild, not in the same way, but stronger, more aware of the fragility of things, more determined to create meaning in the face of chaos. They become, in a sense, immune to his power, not because they are untouched by it, but because they are no longer defined by what falls, but by what rises from the ruins. In stories, Agares is the antagonist of builders, of those who seek to create lasting structures, whether physical, social, or spiritual. He is the force that tests their creations, that challenges their assumptions, that forces them to confront the reality of change. He is not always defeated, for not all things can withstand his power, but he is always met with the resilience of those who refuse to be broken, who find in instability a reason not to despair, but to strive. Ultimately, Agares' control over earthquakes and instability is a reflection of a deeper truth about existence, that nothing is truly permanent, that change is inevitable, that the ground will shift. His power is a dark mirror, showing us the cost of ignoring the forces beneath, the danger of believing in absolute security. But it also reveals the strength that can be found in facing these truths, in embracing the challenge of rebuilding, in standing firm even when the earth itself gives way. He is a force of disruption, but also of transformation, a reminder that through the tremors of life, new foundations can be laid, stronger and more enduring than before. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Like and subscribe for more, and stay curious.